Well, thanks everybody. Looks like we've got a bunch of attendees here today. Let's go ahead and get started with the City of Scottsdale Neighborhood College. This is class number 4. There has been 3 classes before this, but if this is your first time attending, welcome. If you have attended any of the classes previously, you've been privileged to hear from local HOA attorneys Beth Mulcahy and Augustus Shaw. They've done a really good job covering some important topics for both new and old HOA and condo leaders. There's 2 additional classes after today's, which is an awesome opportunity to take advantage of the free education. So to stay in the loop, the best thing you can do is sign up for the Neighborhood College email list if you haven't already. This is the most effective way to receive information about what's coming up. Make sure you take the time to sign up for their email list by visiting the Neighborhood College page on the city's website. You just add your email list to the form on the right-hand side of the page. The easiest way that I found to find the Neighborhood College page is just use Google. Type in City of Scottsdale Neighborhood College, and it should likely be the first result in the list. Today's topic is HOA and condo technology, more specifically, how to leverage the cloud to build trust and stay connected. Before we get started, let's quickly review our outline. Our webinar is pretty full. We only have an hour, which is going to go by super quick. But when we were planning this event, we wanted to make sure we delivered as much value and as much information as possible in the short amount of time we have. Because this is an educational webinar, we wanted to make sure you leave with some real takeaways and ideas on how to improve your community with technology. So today you'll learn what the cloud is, why technology matters, and then we'll jump into a couple of special presentations for some specific use cases on how innovative community leaders and board members like you are using technology to improve your communities. Really quick, I want to give a shout out to the whole crew at the City of Scottsdale, Bruce and Jamie, for giving us this opportunity to provide this free educational webinar. Scottsdale, if you know, puts Phoenix Metro on the map, and we're really excited to be providing this to such a prominent city in the nation. So thank you guys. We are looking forward to continue to work with you. My name is Austin Haywood, and I'm from neighborhoody.com. I'll be moderating the class today and kicking things off. You're probably wondering, who is this guy? What makes him qualified to speak about cloud technology and HOAs and condos? I've spent the last 10 years building internet software and digital technology. I was born into a family-run HOA management business, so I've been working in and out of the HOA industry since I was 15 years old. Today, my focus is solely on solving problems for HOAs and condos with technology. Just so you don't have to listen to me blab for a full 60 minutes, I've invited a couple of HOA and condo technology experts to help me out today. They'll talk about some really innovative solutions and how they've helped other community leaders just like you solve specific problems with technology. A big thanks to our speakers for being here today. We've got with us today Damian Esparza from Smart Property. They provide capital planning and reserve study software to help you prevent those scary moments when you're strapped for cash. Adam Rose from Property Guard. Property Guard is an automated short-term rental activity monitoring and reporting service, so you can ensure residents aren't breaking the rules and renting their properties out on Airbnb and other short-term rental sites. Scottsdale is one of the nation's top short-term rental markets, so be sure to stay around for Adam's presentation. Ben Zelikovitz from GetQuorum, an electronic voting and virtual annual meeting management solution. And then 2 of my team members from neighborhoody.com, Sarah and Dylan, will wrap things up. Neighborhoody.com is your community's digital hub. It's more than just a website, it's a better way to connect with your community. In today's webinar, we want to help you understand why technology matters and how you can use it in your own community. Our goal today is not to sell you any one of these services, but rather to educate you on what's out there, what's available, and the benefits you can gain from leveraging technology in your own community. Technology can do a lot of things for your community. It can help you control or decrease your costs, communicate more effectively, increase trust and transparency, encourage community engagement, improve your board's decision-making. Ultimately, all of these things can result in increased property values. And the opposite of these things can cost you time, money, and the worst thing of all, community distrust. The benefits for adopting technology in your community can really have a positive impact on both your role as a leader and all of your community members. So when I say cloud technology or the cloud, what does that even mean? The cloud is merely just a term to describe accessing information or services over the internet. Let's take Zoom, for example. Zoom is a great example of cloud technology. Zoom's hosting our webinar right now. And thanks to COVID, I'm guessing a lot of you have gotten used to using Zoom or some form of video or phone conferencing technology for your board meetings. As a community leader, you're a member of the leadership team. That means you're in charge of making decisions, allocating and spending money, and ensuring that your members can be involved and are taken care of. By adopting a technology like Zoom, you're able to fulfill your duties as a community leader and meet virtually, but also provide a way for members to still participate for an insignificant cost. The benefits of Zoom, as an example, they far outweigh the costs, if any. This is the magic of cloud technology, because cloud technology, unlike a local service provider, like a landscaper or a plumber, can scale beyond a specific region. It becomes highly affordable to deliver such powerful services to the end user. So technology and the internet, which has given us access to the cloud, has made things so much easier and so much faster. Good or bad, things are now instant, accessible, and scalable. This has resulted in faster speed, greater opportunity, and increased affordability for anyone with access to the internet. As consumers, the cloud has modified our behaviors and our expectations. It's created a brand new way of doing things. So just 10 years ago, the cost of live streaming your board meeting, think the town council meetings broadcasted on a local cable channel, would have cost thousands of dollars. Today, live streaming your board meeting via Zoom or some other virtual meeting service is practically free. Here's another example, file storage. There's a cost to storing files physically in a file cabinet. First, the actual space each file takes up in the cabinet and its storage cost. Second, the cost of retrieval. There's a single copy of the file. It may be organized, but it's highly likely you have to thumb through a couple of documents to find it. In comparison, cloud file storage makes storing and retrieving files so much easier and faster. There's a low chance that your file will be lost or destroyed by accident. Anyone can access permissible files from anywhere in the world. The convenience alone is worth the cost of storing files in the cloud. And to be honest with you, it's usually much cheaper too. By leveraging and adopting technology in your community, not only can you better meet consumer expectations to improve trust, but you can drastically improve the way your community operates. With technology, you can build trust, or at least limit the opportunity for distrust, track and make better decisions with data instead of a gut feeling, save time. Heck, you're not getting paid for your role as a community leader. So this could be a major personal benefit. Control your costs with better tracking and forecasting, provide a better experience, and make it more convenient for you and your members. So in summary, technology, it won't solve all of your problems, but in most cases, the benefits are great enough that you should take the time to explore and consider what options are out there for your community and its own individual needs. So to give you some tangible examples of how you can leverage technology in your own community, I'm going to turn the time over to our first presenter, Damien with Smart Property.
Hello, everybody. My name is Damien with Smart Property. So we're going to talk about how to use your reserve study in a digital world to build trust and stay connected. So what is Smart Property? Smart Property is a traditional reserve study that incorporates technology. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and one of the biggest issues I saw when I started in this industry was the lack of accuracy of a reserve study. The issue is that these reserve studies in many situations are static, but your properties are dynamic. And so we believe that there was a better way to do this. I come from a family business, much like Austin, that started about 40 years ago, and I've been in the industry for about 20 years. And we started building technologies in what we call tech-enabled reserve studies to help associations map the reality of what they're actually doing to the budget and planning of what they're forecasting and looking forward to do in the future. And this was the biggest opportunity we saw to make reserve studies more accurate and more useful. In that process, we've actually partnered with a national architectural engineering firm. So now we offer these tech-enabled services that include architects, engineers, and certified reserve analysts. For that, we've been featured in Forbes, Hawaii Business Magazine, and San Diego Business Journal. We're here to help you avoid the hidden surprises, protect your assets, and reduce your liability. This is kind of how we've seen the old way of doing reserve studies in process, right? You have someone that comes out, you get Excel spreadsheets. This process goes back and forth with a lot of email communication, and then it gets delivered to a board ultimately to help determine what those reserve contributions should be. And there's a lot of questions. We believe that there's a better way to do this and really avoid the bottlenecks in the process by leveraging the technology. This is what we've developed. We've developed a platform, right? And it provides the data to come in, be reviewed by analysts, management and boards can review that, and you streamline the process. And everyone's working with the same information. We see this as just a better way to be able to manage your capital plan and ensure that you're funding accordingly. A lot of times when we talk with boards, one of the things that we hear a lot is we want to avoid excess fee increases. And I'm going to share in a little while a case study on how we helped actually association do that. The other thing that's I think really important to share is the importance of your information. Your data, your digital data, right? The historicals of all this information, this institutional knowledge that you guys are working with as you serve on your board and your associations. This institutional knowledge is as much as an asset as the components themselves. And I think this is a really important point when you look at technology in the cloud. So the question really becomes then is how are you managing that information? And we believe that we can help you, leveraging the cloud to do it in a better way. I would say one of the most important tools of reserve study is help you with the clarity. One of the big questions we get from boards is we need tools that help us communicate to the members on where the money's going. This helps us when we have to increase contributions. It gives us the ability to actually make the case to support those contribution increases, and also educate and give people a peace of mind and trust that they know and understand where those money is going and what the funds and forecast looks like. Okay, now I'm going to share a little bit, some secrets in terms of how you can help increase your home value by leveraging the reserve study. If there's one thing I would like you guys to leave this presentation with is when you look at your next reserve study, look at the capital expenditure plan. The number one way that you can help increase your home values and avoid excess fee increases is by smoothing out the spikes in your capital expenditure plan. And I'll talk about that in a second. Number two way that we look at it is by helping create real custom funding plans. Ensure when you're working with your reserve analyst that it's not a cookie cutter report that you're getting, and you're actually participating in that contribution plan strategy portion of developing the reserve study. Third is creating a system of record, right? How do we actually capture this institutional knowledge to ensure that future boards will be able to benefit from all the hard work we're doing? As Austin said earlier, it's about time savings. So we want to ensure that as well to helping protect and leverage your home values. And lastly, how do we help educate and inform? So number one secret I'd like to share and talk about is smoothing out the spikes. As you can see here on the screen, there's these big spikes in the CapEx plan. A lot of association reserve studies I see have these spikes, right? Most people spend time on the inventory, but they don't look at the actual plan. And when you map this plan to the actuality of what you're going to do, that's where you can reduce at times the contribution increase and avoid the excess fees on your association assessments. It's huge. It's probably one of the number one reasons why we get return business is because we help develop a plan that maps to the reality of what associations are actually doing. The second secret I want to talk about is the value of real-time planning. So, the benefit of the cloud, the benefit of technology, of having your reserve study really digital is that you're able to control or participate in that process to create strategies that map to your needs. It's no longer a cookie cutter process. It now involves you in that process. And so we believe in real-time planning is really the way to go when it comes to developing the right contribution strategy. And it takes it from a static report into a more dynamic living reserve study. The third secret is how do you help reduce your liability? And we believe that you can help reduce your liability by creating a system of record. So, again, I'll use this word, a living reserve study. Our information is dynamic and living when it comes to useful life, remaining life, photos, maps, and creating this narrative, if you will, where you can actually track all your notes. So ultimately, at some point, you'll get off that board, like I said before, and you'll have that institutional knowledge that you'll be able to share, ultimately make better decisions, as you plan. And the last secret I want to talk about is, how do we communicate, right? How are we educating and informing our owners on where the money's going? And it was said, and what was said earlier about leveraging the cloud to build trust. We have, worked in this industry. I've worked in this industry for a long time. One of the challenges is understanding a reserve study. It's a big report, right? It's got 50 pages, or maybe more, maybe a little bit less. And there's a lot of data. There's a lot of information. So we've really focused on how can we educate and inform residents so they have more trust in where the money is going, what the assessments are, right, in terms of how they've been determined, and what the future looks like. And so we really believe when you work with your reserve study company that you should have them focus on providing tools that help educate and inform not just the board, but also the residents when it comes to the important items of the reserve study. So this is a real quick demo that I'll show of kind of how the software works. What does it look like? You can see here, everything is visual and digital. And so, this is a component inventory. We have dashboards. We're a big believer in making things pretty, if you will. And everything is clickable. So it allows users to engage. This user right here is looking at their contribution plan, right? Their cash flow plan. They just clicked on what the expenses were for a particular year. They can drill down. And now he's going to go in, or she's going to go in, and now she's going to look at what the contributions are. So they're creating real-time plans right here, and you can see down there on the bottom, they're currently putting away about $75,000. The threshold was about $94,000, and here's a more conservative approach at 100% funded. This is about convenience, and this is about time. As Austin said, you guys are volunteers. So we really focus on making this as simple as possible. We work in collaboration with our boards. We think that's the future, and that's the benefit of leveraging technology, for managing your association. Now I'm going to go through a really quick case study. This was a client that we had, and so the manager actually felt that the reserve contributions may be too high. It was more of an instinct thing. He didn't really have any proof to show, and the board was also concerned that they may be over-assessing. So we were hired, we analyzed their anticipated expenditures, their reserve study, and found out that they had $8 million in projects anticipated over a 2-year period. And again, this goes back to mapping to what the reserve study said they should be doing and what they were actually doing. And the board of management said, we just can't afford to do that $8 million. So we were able to go in there using the technology, with the service, right, with their certified reserve analysts, and we were able to smooth out the spikes. And with that, we were able almost to save the excess fee increase of $100,000 that they were putting away in their contributions. And that meant that each owner got to keep an extra $20 a month in their pockets, right? While they actually had a very healthy funding plan. They maintained a 70% funding plan. And this is a great quote, and it really kind of, got the light bulb going in myself when the manager said is that no one wants to be known as having the highest assessments, right? The assessments that you have for your association impact your property value. So by actually leveraging your reserve study and helping ensure that you don't have excess fee increases, you're increasing the value of your homes. And this is a big idea, right? Is that we can actually invest the time getting that reserve study right. It's going to impact our assessments. We'll have confidence in what we're actually, setting our budgets at, and it's going to have an impact on our home value. So this was a real big, idea for us, and we were really happy that the software was able to help the association. This is what some of our clients have said here. This is actually Dobson Ranch, the executive director there. She loved the time saved, right? She works very closely with the board, and so this was for us. This was a great kudos. I know locally there in the state of Arizona, and this is another large-scale association, and the manager here really liked the fact that it gave them more confidence. Again, that sense of peace of mind that they were able to participate in the process. It was no longer a static reserve study. It was actually a dynamic living, document, if you will. So we've seen value there. And this is a board president. He was able to look at his changes. Instead of it taking a couple of weeks, it took a day, right? And so just that value of convenience and time savings in creating the plans, there's value in that. And then, lastly, kind of just summarize, if you want to help avoid, fee increases, which is what we hear a lot of associations boards, they want to really try to make sure they're not overassessing, improve home values, reduce your liabilities, and also better manage your projects. So we recently released a tool that now allows you to do the project tracking back to the reserve study. And this is something that we see as being really valuable, making that reserve study, again, more of a living document. So you can track your projects against what you budgeted and have just a more accurate understanding of, are we budgeting enough? Are we funding enough? And what projects are we actually doing? So with that, I will hand it back over to the next speaker, and
we'll get to, we'll let Adam take over next.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Damien.
All right, so we're going to switch gears here and go into short-term rental compliance. My name is Adam Rose. I am the CEO, co-founder of this company, Property Guard. We have reviewed tens of thousands of short-term rental listings across many different platforms. We are in the Dallas area, founded now 4 years ago by property managers and municipal planners. I am more of the planning hat. I wear that hat and bring that to the company. We cover several different verticals, if you will, from the more private condo, HOA, apartment, where we have a proprietary search engine and scoring algorithm. We also wade into municipalities. We get more into permitting and fee and tax collection, and even down into lenders and insurers, where they're just looking for classified data. There are some of our logos of people we've worked with in the past, but I really want to get kind of right into it and talk to you about the short-term rental market. A lot of times people consider this to be relatively niche, and I think that by the time I'm done here in my few minutes, you will agree with me that maybe not exactly the case. So let me bring it to you like this. Let's start with Direct. So Direct is a host and a platform. So you and Airbnb, you may be renting from Airbnb, you may be listing from Airbnb, you may be doing both with Airbnb. You've probably heard of that. You may or may not also be familiar with something I coined an aggregator. So as example, in Estes Park, there's lots of cabins in that beautiful part of Colorado. So there is a company that purely shows a few dozen of those properties, calling them an aggregator. They don't own the properties, they just manage them. Then there are intermediaries. You may have heard of Sonder. They raised a lot of money a couple of years ago. They go into apartments and HOAs and try to be this intermediary to add value. So we will manage complaints, we will handle any billing issues. And then you have the technologists. That's where I raise my hand and say, yes, I'm a technologist. We may offer something like safety, convenience, monitoring in our case. I just want to point out, in case you were not aware, there are hundreds of direct platforms out there beyond Airbnb, Vrbo, Flipkey, things like that. There's certainly thousands, if not more, aggregators, hundreds of intermediaries, and I can tell you as a technologist, there are thousands of us. There are whole conferences just for technologists, just in the short-term rental space. And in case you were thinking, well, the pandemic probably knocked that space down a little bit, here's something from Forbes pre-pandemic showing you the market itself is over $169 billion, that being years ago. So here's some arguments against unregulated short-term rentals. Well, in general, they're loosely regulated. The providers, the Airbnbs of the world, they offload the due diligence of whether or not you should be hosting to the actual host, which is the part of the presentation where you laugh to yourself, knowing how often your residents review all of your covenants and all of your registrations and regulations, knowing whether or not they should be doing it, even if they know. They certainly offload that so they can handle and go about their business. Revenues are unbalanced. Most people don't collect any money, but you might collect a small fee, and that's certainly not the same as something like a hotel. Safety is an issue. So Airbnb, and I don't mean to pick on Airbnb, but most of us have heard of them. Airbnb will validate that myself, I am who I am, and if I'm renting from Austin, they'll verify that Austin is who he is. He and I will never meet each other, but none of Austin's neighbors will also meet me either, even though I should be there. So really everyone else has the problem. All of those really sum up to what I would call the poster child for negative externalities. Any parties, gatherings, trash, bad, any of that is offloaded on the people who don't benefit from the system. It's just kind of the way it works, and it's worked that way for years. So kind of the semi-rhetorical question I ask you is there some opportunity there? You know, is it to collect lost revenue? Is it to reduce complaints? Some type of compliance monitoring can help. And we're going to cover a pretty wide continuum of what I mean by that. One thing I would point out, and I think everyone knows this, but it's worth saying out loud, the time to find out if you need this system is not after their complaints, right? That is the top of the mountain. If you are hearing about complaints, that's because someone has seen something enough to complain to someone else to come and talk to you, which means it's happened even more than that, which means it's probably happened more than that and no one's noticed. So that's really not the time. Going back to this concept of what I'm calling a compliance continuum, on the far left side, we have total ban, right? Some apartments, some HOAs have that. Absolutely no condition. I don't care what it is. You're not allowed to use any kind of short-term rental. Just not possible. We move over to exemptions. And by the way, when we started years ago, that was kind of the way it was. Total ban is just the way it was. We moved into exceptions. So as an example, you can list in your HOA if it's at least 60 days, or if it's not more than 3 months out of the year, something like that. Then we move over to permits, right? So you can list maybe with or without exemptions, but you need to have a permit so we can kind of track what's happening, again, to collect money or just to be able to really come back and if someone complains, know what's going on. And the far end, the wild, wild west end is the no restrictions. You can do whatever you want. And say most municipalities exist on the right side of the spectrum. Most HOAs are honestly more in the left side of the spectrum. What we've seen in apartments are kind of in the middle. So that's a lot of moving parts, right? I've kind of got right into it. Lots of players, lots of things happening, and lots of ways you can kind of slice and dice this. It's not meant to make this overly complicated. It's a relatively straightforward problem. It is a problem. I would submit to you that the answer here is just knowledge, right? Coming as a planner, I'm a risk manager. That's what I love to do. Basis of any good risk management is having knowledge of what is happening. And we can go all the way back to grade school with a who, what, when, where, whys. But at the end of the day, it's really nice to be able to answer to someone proactively. Who are these guests and hosts? Where are they in the community? When and how often are they listing? Are they actually getting people to go there? Are they just listing it? What are they using to post it? What should we care about? Those kind of the basic questions. And I think if I told anyone before this, probably could resolve down to some kind of question like that. Now, I'm going to say that this is not knowledge. Going to Airbnb and just kind of poking around downtown Dallas is not knowledge. It's barely data. It's not efficient to collect. It's fraught with errors. However, I will say that if you, lovely listener on the end of this call, if you have an Excel sheet and this is what you do every day, I am not in any way trying to make light of that. That is better than nothing. That is a system. And we'll get into types of, that works. I just don't want that to be you sleep sound at night because you have a system that is just rock solid. That's a good start. And for some people, that's all you need to get to. When we started thinking through Property Guard from a property management standpoint, we said, well, we got to get to the data. We got to know what's happening in basically real time, which means we need a computer. We can't just put a person on that. But data, anyone who has email knows data is easy. Organizing it, sorting it into something that's useful, everyone sharing the same view is really more important. And I'd say if you kind of, again, with analogy of going up some kind of mountain here, a level above that is knowledge. So, there are systems out there. Austin's talked through the cloud. Like there are ways, if you've got a rent roll, if you've got images of amenities, there should be ways to automatically score and process this data to be able to find people pretty consistently without a human even having to do that. And really, if you have people who like to put a listing up and down, remember there are thousands of technology companies that are not all out there to help you, the HOA. A lot of them are out there to help the resident. We should be able to copy that. And again, and you can probably, if you extend that, you could think through the idea of the system getting better over time. This example of an amenity somewhere, people are lazy. They like to use same pictures or similar pictures. You may know, may not know, Google is really good at being able to compare, two different kitchens that are the same but taken different angles and knowing they're the same kitchen. So the system, as it runs over time, actually gets better over time. And soon it kind of knows even things that aren't publicly available, but are standard across floor plans or amenity sets, where to go. That's good, right? That's better. That feels like knowledge. But so what are we going to do with that? Well, the concept of mailing letters to residents or to the platforms right from email, track notifications, know where it went. Is this the second or this is the third time? Are we getting into eviction talk? Or even before we get there, are we just getting into like fine level 2? Who knows who sent that and when? All things really important to know. So I kind of, on the back end of my talk, just say, I'm always with the questions and I apologize, but just think through, how do you balance effort and results, right? So if you have enough people, you got volunteers. If everyone in the community were to just go searching around through websites all day, you probably wouldn't need a tool, right? Because no one has anything better to do. Not to make light of it, but there's got to be some kind of balance. And so that's where we go anywhere from nothing to just a nice spreadsheet to a full system. And where do you fall in that continuum is the question. And so what I would say to you, we have a white paper. You'll be able to find us one way or the other. It is literally transparently how to produce something like Property Guard without using Property Guard, just to kind of show you, after doing tens of thousands of these, what works, what doesn't work. Do you need a full-blown system? Can you do it yourself? Is there something in between? And we like to be real upfront with people because we deal with this day in and day out every single day. You may from time to time, but hopefully not as much as we do. And I may be good on time, maybe a little early. I'm always up for giving people some time back. We have our contact info there. Certainly, website's got a lot of good information. If you're looking for me or someone else, you will find us. And with that, I think it's Ben next. Are we back to Ben? Am I passing it to you, Austin?
Yep, we got Ben. Ben is going next. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
And just to sum that up, essentially what Property Guard can do for your community is you give them a list of your property addresses. They'll monitor all of those websites that Adam had mentioned and send you that daily report or weekly report on, hey, these are the listings that are active, inactive, new, old, etc. So Property Guard is an amazing solution if that's a problem that you face of maintaining a list of short-term rentals and you have restrictions on those in your community. So thanks, Adam. And then we'll let Ben take it from here.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'd like to first thank Bruce and Austin for the opportunity to present here. My name is Ben Zelakovitz, and I'm one of the founders of GetQuorum. And we're here today for my portion of the presentation to talk about virtual annual meetings and electronic voting and how that can be used within your communities to drive some efficiencies. I'm often asked, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, how the heck did you get into this line of business, Ben? And the short story is, in 2015, I was just a regular condo owner, and I became unfortunately involved in a plumbing dispute, which spilled over into a lawsuit and then a proxy fight. And 4 or 5 months later, I found myself elected to the board of directors for my condominium, where I spent 4 or 5 years managing my condominium, and that's where the idea for the GetQuorum platform was created. So what exactly is it that we do? We do a few things, and we're pretty focused on voting and owner meetings. So we do those. We like to think we do those things pretty well. So advanced electronic balloting, virtual annual meetings, inclusive of real-time voting. We do opt-in and voting certificate gathering. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Electronic meeting notice distribution. And then last month, GetQuorum was accepted as a certified Zoom ISV partner, which means we have a direct integration with Zoom, and we're the only platform of its kind to have a direct integration and formal partnership with Zoom. So we were quite excited about that. So let's kind of set the table for what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about 2 different types of votes. The first is an advanced electronic vote. What the heck is that? It's a vote cast directly by an owner or member of your community in advance of the meeting, using electronic means. So maybe on your phone, your tablet, your PC, anything that's an internet-enabled device, an advanced electronic vote, you're able to vote on matters pressing at your upcoming meeting. By comparison, a real-time vote is a vote that is cast typically during a meeting, and during the meeting, it is actually done in the middle of a voting period. So the advanced vote is done by the members before the meeting, whereas a real-time vote is done during the meeting. Diving a little bit deeper specifically into the advanced portion of the meeting, why might you want to consider this for your community? And there are a few reasons. First of all, if you've got low turnout, using advanced voting is an easy way to ensure that quorum is reached so that your meeting is valid. So no more canvassing by your property managers, or maybe as board members, you have to do canvassing. That would be awful, but I've certainly heard of stories like that. You'll see increased participation from your members. If you've got snowbirds, if you've got people from other areas of the world that might want to vote and participate, it's going to be easy for them to do so. You can reduce printing and mailing costs. Oftentimes, communities have a lot of expenses in the printing and mailing area. So moving and migrating your owners over to receiving governance and legal notices electronically can help reduce overall costs for the community. It is safe and secure. We have all sorts of proprietary security built into the platform to ensure that the integrity of your vote is always guaranteed. And then lastly, of course, in a sort of post-pandemic world, using advanced electronic voting aids in reducing in-person attendance. Less people might show up to your meeting because they've had an opportunity to participate electronically. And this, generally speaking, is considered a good thing. More specifically to the state of Arizona, I thought we'd talk about some of the details as to how it would work. So first of all, if you're going to do advanced balloting, the ballots are only good for one meeting. The only meeting that the one meeting that you're voting on, the ballot cannot be used for subsequent issues. So if you don't pass the matter at that meeting, the members of your community will have to resubmit a vote at the next meeting if you haven't hit your threshold. On the actual electronic ballots, you must be able to vote on all matters of business or all proposed actions. You have to have an opportunity to vote for or against or abstain on those matters. The ballot must inform the owners as to when the ballot needs to be sent back prior to the meeting. And of course, name, email, and signature, an electronic signature must be applied to the ballot, except in the case where there's a secret ballot where this information is anonymized and stored by GetQuorum to ensure confidentiality. Other things that are of note in the state of Arizona is you cannot authorize another person to vote on behalf of yourself. So you can't use a proxy electronically. All the votes are voted directly. So you can't give the board president your electronic vote. You have to cast that vote yourself. The COA must retain all of the ballots for a year. Any voting platform, like GetQuorum, for example, will hold a ballot for a year. That's like table stakes. So that's easy for you. And the applicable statute is listed there for you if you have any ongoing questions. Obviously, your legal counsel is a great next place to go. GetQuorum obviously is, we've got some answers to questions if you may have them as well, specific to your community. So that's advanced voting, and this gives all your owners the opportunity to vote before a meeting. Now, what actually happens at a meeting? Maybe you don't feel comfortable having a giant group of people in a small confined space right now. Totally understandable. So what exactly is a virtual meeting? And there are a couple different options. So first of all, a virtual meeting takes place usually on the internet. Of course, it could be a telephone conference, but usually it's an online conference or a webinar, much like this one. And the delineation between a broadcasted board meeting and a virtual owner meeting really is the amount of participation that is possible for an owner or a member of your community. At a virtual meeting, the owner or the member can participate in motions, in voting, and Q&A periods. It's not just listening along or passive participation. And there are two types of virtual meetings that we're seeing commonly these days. Most common these days is the virtual only, where it is held exclusively online. So everybody's at home. Nobody's in the party room or wherever you might have your meeting. As well, we're in some areas where case counts are a little bit lower. We're seeing hybrid meetings where there is a virtual meeting that is held in conjunction with an in-person meeting. And so those are the two types of virtual meetings that we're seeing these days. Some things to consider if you're going to try having a virtual meeting is that you have to adopt your meeting procedures to fit within virtual. This is a new world. The way that you used to do things, a lot of it is the same, but you have to have an open mind to how things will be done online. Of course, if it's your first virtual meeting, you want to get out ahead of it and give your opportunity or give your owner and community the opportunity to practice voting, user guides, and just communicate with them early. Dress rehearsals for the panelists so everyone's on the same page when the meeting starts as to how things are going to work. Have a good plan for managing the question and answer period. Have a good plan for voting governance. A lot of people, when they do their virtual owner meetings, they'll just use Zoom. And I honestly don't know how you integrate advanced proxy voting with electronic voting that happens during the meeting in a seamless and quick and efficient way. If you can do it manually, all the power to you. If not, there are platforms like GetQuorum that can help. And then lastly, you don't want to have, or you want to designate an individual that is responsible for moderating, kind of like Austin's doing today. So you wouldn't want that to be your property manager or even your chairperson. Usually it's another member of the staff or perhaps a representative of a voting platform. So just a minute or two left. I'll take you through some case studies before we hand it off here. So first, my favorite Floridians. These guys are in South Beach, Miami. We're looking at their pool deck, and they needed over 50% of their owners to vote in favor of overhauling their pool deck, which was 30 plus years old, using GetQuorum as electronic voting platform. They passed their material alterations before the meeting. So they had excellent participation, and they're really happy, and they've got a beautiful new pool deck. A little bit further up the east coast of Florida, we've got Saturnia HOA. Of a possible 396 units, 317 participated in voting certificates. 219 of them submitted votes, and they attained quorum on just electronic votes before the meeting. So no more canvassing or anything like that. These guys are super happy as well. And the last case study I'll cover for you is in my hometown, Toronto. So this is east side of Toronto, and this condo had a unused superintendent suite. I'm not sure if it's commonplace, but nobody really has supers that live in their suites anymore. This is a premium suite, totally empty, liability on the balance sheet for the condo corporation. So what they needed to do was get approval of over 80% of the owners to repurpose this suite into a rental suite, throw it on Airbnb, and now all of a sudden they've got an asset, generate revenue for them. And they were quite happy and able to achieve their threshold using electronic voting. So that is it for my portion of the presentation. Austin, back to you.
Thanks, Ben. All righty, we'll turn the time over to the last presenters. Sarah from my team will take over first.
Well, I'm super excited to be here to talk to you all about neighborhoody.com, which is your community's new digital hub. Before we get started, Bruce gave that poll out to everyone, and that was really helpful to get to know all of you. It looks like over 60% of you have been leaders in your community for over 5 years. That's a lot of you, so lots of expertise on the call. And it looks like we also have some new folks. We were founded in 2016 as a community website builder, and we learned a lot of things from our flagship product. And so I'm glad we're all here to learn together. The biggest thing that we learned from our flagship product is that HOA websites are not meeting the mark. People like the idea of living in an HOA. They like the idea of keeping their property values high and their neighborhood looking nice. But what people still find is that there's pain in interacting with HOAs. So we're here to talk to you about the things that we learned from our flagship product on what we can all do to improve our HOA websites. So we're going to walk through where people are currently going and and the lessons that we learned from the places that people are going to learn information. So one of the places that people are going to learn information about their HOA is real estate listings or portals like Zillow. And unfortunately, the information there is limited and outdated. So the information on this listing is probably from the last time a property was listed in the community, and that might have changed since the last time. And also the information is limited. So we're only seeing the fee for the community. We're not seeing all the community has to offer. All of your communities are unique, and there's no place to showcase that within Zillow. We've also talked to a lot of real estate agents and title agents who find closing a listing in an HOA more challenging than a non-HOA. And if there was a site like Zillow for HOAs to have all of the basic questions out there, that would be really useful. Another place where especially residents are going is social media. They're going there to connect with their friends. Why not learn about their community? And while social media can be a great place for people to connect, it's also very noisy, and a lot of community leaders end up dealing with negative social media issues, which is not something that you signed up for with your volunteer job. Another place that we're sending people is to welcome letters when they first move in. And while those welcome letters are welcoming, they lack educational information to allow people to be proactive. We are also providing people a large packet of information when they move in. And even the most well-intentioned people are not reading it within the context of a particular situation happening. And so they might forget about it when the time comes. So for the first time there's a guest on the property and they need to deal with parking, or they want to plant a tree, it's a lot easier to pick up the phone and call the management company who receives multiple repeat phone calls a day, or to walk up to a neighbor at the mailbox and ask a question, which I'm sure all of you as community leaders have that happen to you all the time. And it'd be nice to have a boundary to your job. Now, management companies are doing a good job of getting information online. We came from this space as a website builder, but unfortunately, we're uploading that information to the website in a PDF. And that information is just as hard to read in a PDF as it is in a paper packet. And so it's hard to find answers to questions easily. Another issue with management company websites is they're not appearing first on the list. So you can see here on this list, we're seeing real estate websites, we're seeing social media sites, but the actual website for the community isn't even appearing on the first page. This can be particularly troublesome in emergency situations with first responders. This is when you really need information at your fingertips if you're living in or working with communities. We've talked with first responders who respond to an emergency at a community, and finding the contact information for the community can be so challenging because it's not the first thing on Google, that it's a lot easier to just drive to the community and leave a note on the door. So we want to make a difference with our new version of Neighborhoody. We want to provide you all with the tools to help people before they even ask. Over 60% of you have been in your community as leaders for a long time. You would probably consider yourself experts. You have the power to unlock and publish your knowledge, and doing so will increase trust amongst your community members and save you time in the long run as your community changes hands over time. So to get started, you can go to neighborhoody.com today and claim your profile. As a community leader, you'll be able to claim your profile and add a lot of basic information to the page to make it easier for people to see things in an easy to read format. You'll also be able to invite other admins, such as other community leaders, such as board members or committee leaders, and also your community manager to help participate in filling out your page to get all the useful information there. Your page is also going to be really easy to find if you are a resident in the community and you don't know the name of your community. So you can either search for a name, search for your community by name, or by typing in your address, and then you can click on your community from your property page. This is really useful for individuals living in maybe a master sub community situation where they have to pay fees to more than one community. Once your community page is completely filled out, it's really going to be your community's digital hub where you can find all of the information in one place. Your page will be very visual. It's going to allow people to see your community through photos. You'll also be able to put it on a map. And we're going to be over time adding more and more information to Neighborhoody. We just launched in Q1, so we have a robust roadmap ahead of us. Soon we'll be launching outreach tools. Your page will naturally gain subscribers as people go to it because of all the useful information you have there. You'll also have the opportunity to upload a list of subscribers, maybe in a CSV or Excel format, and then put it into Neighborhoody. You'll then be able to send them email blasts or text message alerts. You'll easily be able to schedule in-person and online events and get that information out to your subscribers. The other thing that your neighborhoody page will do is it'll be your community's digital hub where you'll have a place to post official things about your community. People are still more than welcome to go to your social media pages to chat about the decisions that have been made or the news that is being put out there, but your page on neighborhoody will be the official place for the post to live without all the noise. Also down the line, we're planning on providing site analytics. We want to be able to show you the number of people that are visiting your site, how long they're staying there, so that you can see what information people are looking at, they find useful, ways to improve your site. And in the long run, we're also going to give you comparative analytics so you can see how you're doing against other HOAs. We're also going to be having an interactive map and extra tools available for you on that. Our basic map is going to show you the boundary of the community and all of the households that are in it. Our upgraded map will allow you to pinpoint particular assets on the community. Maybe you want to keep track of all of the trees that you have or how much sod that your community has for estimating for different projects. If you have a large community, maybe with more than one rec center, you'll be able to pinpoint that in more detail on the map than what Google can provide today. We also have robust cloud file storage available for you. We have basic cloud file storage for PDFs and other documents, and we also are going to have upgraded file storage for all of the online meetings that you're gathering so that they could become an asset for your community as well. Next, I'm going to turn it over to my co-presenter, Dylan, and he's going to talk to you about how we have different cities that we're working with and how your neighborhoody page can be on a city's website that is partnering with us. So turning it over to Dylan.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So in line with our goal of strengthening community connection and building trust, we are partnering with local cities to build registries of neighborhood information. There are several key benefits around this effort that I'll highlight. The first being contact information. So this effort is going to ensure contact information is staying up to date and always relevant. An advantage of this will be to help first responders better respond to issues in your community and alleviate those pain points that Sarah highlighted earlier around knowing who is the right point of contact to engage with when they arrive at a neighborhood or trying to find out even before they get there who's the right person. Second, this tool will help community leaders and city officials communicate about initiatives and projects that directly affect residents. So this will help residents and leaders stay informed about city official information around grants, emergency funding, or pandemic-related assistance. This tool will also help residents keep up on other items such as street closures, water main interruptions, and knowing which utility companies serve them. Finally, all of this will be displayed on a landing page that's already been optimized for immediate search engine results, such as Google, ensuring community members quickly get the right answers to their questions. So how to get started, as Sarah said, it's very easy to enter your address on neighborhoody.com. You go and claim your community, and we take the time, after you do that, we take the time to manually verify profile ownership to ensure it's being assigned appropriately. We want that steering wheel behind your profile to be in the right hands and make sure that it's not being hijacked by the wrong people. We know the decision to use new tools is often group driven. As a result, we are happy to join you or your board for a discussion on how Neighborhoody can help you. Additionally, we are actively talking with cities across the country to help expand our pilot partnership program.
I think with that, we will go ahead and turn the time back over to Bruce for any closing statements. And we do appreciate your time today and thank you for attending.
Thank you very much, Austin, Dylan, Sarah, Adam, Ben, Damien, everybody. It was just an awesome presentation. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.